The anxieties about urbanization, about unlettered, untutored, relatively uneducated peoples coming in large numbers, the sense that disease was a problem, all of these worries were amalgamated into a belief that immigrants caused these problems, and thus immigration should be held down.
Fair use.
Many white Protestant Americans came to fear they were about to be outnumbered and outbred by the newcomers and their offspring, that they were being replaced. They embraced a new pseudoscience born in Britain called eugenics, which falsely claimed, with no evidence, that everything from poverty to prostitution, disabilities to what they called feeble-mindedness, could be eliminated if the individuals they dismissed as socially defective could be stopped from reproducing.
I wish very much that the wrong people could be prevented entirely from breeding. And when the evil nature of these people is sufficiently flagrant, this should be done. Criminals should be sterilized, and feeble-minded persons forbidden to leave offspring behind them. Theodore Roosevelt.
The idea was that the bad people have to stop reproducing, and the good people need to reproduce more. Negative eugenics says sterilize the wrong people, snuff them out. And that's the eugenics that the Nazis would pick up on.
Colleges and universities taught eugenics. Medical societies confirmed it. Clergymen preached it. John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie funded it. And some of the most prominent people in America championed it. Margaret Sanger, Alexander Graham Bell, even Helen Keller.
It seems to me that the simplest, wisest thing to do would be to submit cases like that of the malformed idiot baby to a jury of expert physicians. If the evidence were presented openly, and the decisions made public before the death of the child, there would be little danger of mistakes or abuses. We must decide between a fine humanity and a cowardly sentimentalism.
33 of the 48 states would eventually enact eugenics laws mandating the forced sterilization of wards of the state deemed physically or mentally unfit. People in prisons, hospitals, and asylums. More than 60,000 Americans would be sterilized without their consent before the last of these statutes was removed from the books in 2014. Eugenics also provided a racist rationale for those convinced immigration needed to be drastically curtailed.
The man of the old stock is being crowded out of many country districts by these foreigners, just as he is today being literally driven off the streets of New York City by the swarms of Polish Jews. These immigrants adopt the language of the American. They wear his clothes, they steal his name, and they are beginning to take his women. But they seldom adopt his religion or understand his ideals. And while he's being elbowed out of his own home, the American looks calmly abroad and urges on others the suicidal ethics which are exterminating his own race. Madison Grant.
Madison Grant was a widely admired conservationist, a friend of presidents, a founder of the Bronx Zoo, responsible in part for saving the California redwoods and preserving the buffalo, and instrumental in creating Glacier, Denali, and Everglades national parks.
And he was also a violent anti-Semite and a violent anti-Italian. And he really was horrified by what he saw happening on the streets of New York. So he publishes a book called The Passing of the Great Race, in which he puts forward the idea that nationalities have eugenic characteristics. He fills it with all sorts of interesting historical so-called data, which is mostly crazy. but it's very persuasive, and it does give the anti-immigration movement, it suddenly gives them science. Science says if we let them in, then they're going to destroy the American gene pool.
For Grant and many others, Jews were a distinct race, not considered white, dismissed as uncouth Asiatics. Grant's supposedly scientific claims about a rigid hierarchy of races was ludicrous. The biological notion of race itself is a fiction. But his ideas caught the imagination of those Americans already opposed to immigration.
People tended to increasingly view nationalities as if they were breeds or species. To liken nationalities to breeds was a fundamental categorical mistake.
Hi, I'm Sarah Botstein. Thanks for watching that excerpt from our film, The U.S. and the Holocaust, which explores the story of how the American people grappled with one of the greatest humanitarian crises of the 20th century. Here are some more clips from the film, and you can watch the entire series on the PBS Video app or at pbs.org.
The anxieties about urbanization,
Okay, fam, so that's why I'm gonna stop it. And they told you where to watch the rest at. And PBS is a open source media. They allow you to play their stuff openly, but I still want y'all to go and support CBS when y'all get the time. Go and make sure you can also look. They're on YouTube as well, so you can also look for them there. And I have something else to share with you. This one here is about the president, one of the presidents of the United States of America. This is not where everything is, but this is just a part of history that is a cause. You'll see. So listen at what Nixon had to say. This is the real President Nixon right here. Fair use, according to the United States of America, fair use. Please listen. And this right here will explain a part of history.
If you want to join me here, won't you be seated, please, ladies and gentlemen? Come on, Dr. Jaffe and Mr. Krogh, Mr. Ehrlich. Fine. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to summarize for you the meeting that I have just had with the bipartisan leaders, which began at 8 o'clock and was completed 2 hours later. I began the meeting by making this statement, which I think needs to be made to the nation. America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive. I have asked the Congress to provide the legislative authority and the funds to fuel this kind of an offensive. This will be a worldwide offensive dealing with the problems of sources of supply as well as Americans who may be stationed abroad wherever they are in the world. It will be government-wide, pulling together the 9 different fragmented areas within the government in which this problem is now being handled. And it will be nationwide in terms of a new educational program that we trust will result from the discussions that we have had. With regard to this offensive, it is necessary first to have a new organization. And the new organization will be within the White House. Dr. Jaffe, who will be one of the briefers here today, will be the man directly responsible. He will report directly to me. And he will have the responsibility to take all of the government agencies, 9, that deal with the problems of rehabilitation, in which his primary responsibilities will be research and education, and see that they work not at cross purposes, but work together in dealing with the problem. If we're going to have a successful offensive, we need more money. Consequently, I'm asking the Congress for $155 million in new funds, which will bring the total amount this year in the budget for drug abuse, both in enforcement and treatment, to over $350 million. As far as the new money is concerned, incidentally, I have made it clear to the leaders that if this is not enough, if more can be used, if Dr. Jaffe, after studying this problem, finds that we can use more, more will be provided. In order to defeat this enemy, which is causing such great concern, and correctly so, to so many American families, money will be provided to the extent that it is necessary and to the extent that it will be useful. And finally, in order for this program to be effective, it is necessary that it be conducted on a basis in which the American people all join in it. That's why the meeting was bipartisan. Bipartisan because we needed the support of the Congress, but bipartisan because we needed the leadership of members of the Congress in this field. Fundamentally, it is essential for the American people to be alerted to this danger, to recognize that it is a danger that will not pass with the passing of the war in Vietnam, which has brought to our attention the fact that a number of young Americans have become addicts as they serve abroad, whether in Vietnam or Europe or other places. Because the problem existed before we became involved in Vietnam, it will continue to exist afterwards, and that is why this offensive deals with the problem there in Europe, but will then go on to deal with the problem throughout America. Presidential responsibility in this respect. I very much hesitate always to bring some new responsibility into the White House, because there are so many here, and I believe in delegating those responsibilities to the departments. But I consider this problem so urgent. I also found that it was scattered so much throughout the government, with so much conflict, without coordination, that it had to be brought into the White House, and consequently, I brought Dr. Jaffe into the White House, directly reporting to me, so that we have not only the responsibility, but the authority to see that we wage this offensive effectively and in a coordinated way. The briefing team will now be ready to answer any questions on the technical details of the program.
All right, listen close, fam. Now, I want y'all to listen close to what the 94 crime bill was about. Listen close.
So 25 years after the 1994 crime bill was enacted, we are still having conversations about the import and significance of the bill.
That 1994 crime bill, it did contribute to mass incarceration in our country.
It's important that people remember the context of the political environment in the early 1990s.
The other big piece of legislation on Capitol Hill tonight is the crime bill.
Now, violent crime peaked in 1991, and the drafters of the bill didn't know that in 1993 and 1994 when they were drafting and signing it. Urban areas, urban cities across the country were ravaged by crack cocaine, and Americans were afraid of crime. The 1994 crime bill was signed by President Bill Clinton. This was a pretty significant bill at the time, and President Clinton and Senator Biden at the time were right that the bill was significant.
The most significant federal effort to deal with violent crime in America that has ever been undertaken.
It was important for a Democrat at the time to be seen as taking a significant role in trying to reduce crime and violence in the United States. And at the time, the Congressional Black Caucus was part of the debate around the crime bill. And the Congressional Black Caucus didn't want every provision that was included in this bill. It became clear that the provisions in the 94 crime bill were going to be a political compromise. And so the history is much more complicated than is sometimes portrayed by the media. Now, what did the bill do? Just like a lot of political compromises, there was the good and there was the bad. For example, The bill eliminated 19 types of semi-automatic assault weapons. It also provided huge amounts of funding to hire cops. 100,000 cops were funded. It was about $14 million at the time for community policing. The bill also enacted the Violence Against Women Act that provided funding to protect women and victims of domestic violence and crimes against women. But the most pernicious provision of the 1994 crime bill was its $12 billion that was authorized for states across the country that would enact what's called truth in sentencing laws. That funding literally paid states to increase the number of prison beds that they allocated for individuals convicted of violent crime in this country to serve 85% of their sentences behind bars. The reason that provision is...
How many Negroes did you see behind bars up in there? Okay? And they came out with something else, and they did investigation of it, and they found out that this crime bill and that war on drug thing was all against Negroes. Some European people got put in there, but they got slaps on the wrist. You know, so the 94 crime bill and the war on drugs that Nixon then was doing was against Negroes. Remember at the time, they weren't even really trying to hear nothing Martin Luther King and Elder Malcolm X then was talking about. So you got to remember, while y'all listening to this, and then I'm finna read something to you that's important, all right? Because we may not take it important if we don't see these things the way that they really are. All right, so go ahead and listen to this part right here.
So important, and the reason we're still talking about it today is the federal government essentially subsidized states across the country to build more prisons. So 25 years later, the crime bill is being debated.
You stood up and used that tough on crime, phony rhetoric. That bill was a huge mistake.
There's no question that crime bill contributed to America's mass incarceration problem.
1994 crime bill, we had a gigantic epidemic in America of violence, particularly in African-American communities. The notion was overwhelmingly supported. It was supported by the Black Caucus in the United States Senate by and large.
And the reason that the crime bill comes up so often is, today in 2019, it is hard for so many people to understand why the federal government would pay states to incarcerate more people, given the devastating consequences we know that incarceration causes. But
and you see Martin Luther King was marching saying for jobs and for more money to be, and so he was like, we going to get our check, and then pop, he gone. You see what I'm saying? So, well, y'all need to see, like, the people that didn't grow up during the time I was growing up. I'm telling you, they was stopping people, trying to see if they had weapons, stopping them, see if they had drugs. If they didn't have drugs, a lot of the what we used to call them the big boys and the older folk, they would be sitting down talking and saying how they would be planting drugs on people and stuff, and then people look at you as a criminal. So when you try to go and get a job, if you have a criminal record, you couldn't get a job. So if, let's say they put drugs in your vehicle, they just throw a bag in there, and then you go to jail. What they'll do, the government was paying them. So the government was paying them money to lock up black people, and other people get a slap on the wrist. But black people, there was mass incarceration. So you heard them rap songs and all that was going on back then. like with Ice Cube and all them, what they was talking about, this what was going on during that time. So that was a mass incarceration. You see all those Negroes in there, and the white people go in and they'll come right out. Unless you on murder and whatever, and they might get you. But Negroes en masse was locked up in there. Like our fathers and mothers was locked up in there on murder charges for possession of what grow out of the ground, for possession of what the people in Kemet used to use to bury they loved ones in the tombs. The cocaine that they used to put on the body to embalm it. That's what they was locking up your brothers and sisters over in America for sniffing in their nose, or for blowing it out their mouth. This is what they was getting locked up for. And that stuff is very addictive. I watched as our household was broken down by a marriage union between my mother and father broken up. And then you got to remember, they had the eugenics program what Margaret Sanger had set up, and she was a part of the Ku Klux Klan, the women part. So you had all this going on. You got mass incarceration. You got the people walking around here not knowing who they was because they was taken from their homeland and their identity was wiped away. Our parents were murdered before we were taken from Africa. And then they put us on slave ships, children without parents. You don't have no wealth of information to pass down. And then they would put these children, they would grow them up on their plantations, dogging them out, raping them, and doing all type of stuff when they grow up. And then after that, then they put them out on the plantation, make them work. And then Abraham Lincoln said, we're going to sign this thing, proclamation, whatever. You free now. They didn't give us no nothing. Then the people turn around, and whatever that was allotted, they came and took it all back. So that was the time when a lot of black people was calling themselves Native Americans. Like we was joining forces with the Native Americans, the people that was here. And so Negroes was fighting to be free from slavery. All this happened in this country. I went from the front to the back, whatever order that you can fathom it in your mind. Negroes have been fighting for their marriages. And then what they did with the Section 8 housing, they gave our sisters an option. Y'all can take this right here, but you can't have no man in the house. If there's any sign that a man in the house, it better not be no shoes, no shirt, no watch, no anything that got to do with a man in your house. If they found a man in your house, you lost your Section 8 and you lost your money that you had coming in. So your man couldn't be in the house. That's what they complaining about now about Pookie and Ray Ray. So you see this? So then you had the stereotyping, because everybody was looking around trying to hold on to their purse, thinking that Negroes want to take something from them. Then they didn't want to let you work on the job. And then they released the crack cocaine and all these things in the community, and they wouldn't let nobody work. So what happened is that they started, some started taking the drugs given to them by the government and selling it, because there wasn't no jobs for a lot of them, and some of them probably was just falling along. That's what happened with children, with youth, people that growed up without parents. I ain't trying to justify wrong. I'm telling you what was going on. And then when I'm finna read to you this Lamentation chapter 5, and we're going to think about husband and wife. Think about this, husband and wife. What do women say that they want their man to do? They say they want them to provide. Do they? They say they want their man to be a provider. Let me see if I could put that in a little box. They say they want their man to be a provider for them. And so the government gave them an option. Well, I'll be your provider. I'll be your way maker. I'll be your man. That's what the government gave our sisters the option to do. So I'm finna let a little bit more of this play. And I'm gonna save these links underneath the video when this is done. But I'm gonna let a little bit more of this play. You see, it's almost, so I'm gonna let a little bit of it play, and then I'm finna pull this down and pull up my Bible.
At the time, policymakers felt the need to respond to what they felt was uncontrolled violence, and this bill was the way that policymakers, that Congress could say, or do something about it.
Violent crime and the fear it provokes are crippling our society. The crime bill before Congress gives you a chance to do something about it, a chance to be tough and smart.
We need to examine the crime bill and all of the federal bills that galvanized prison spending, that galvanized more arrest, more incarceration, and we need to look to the future. And today, the United States leads the world in terms of incarceration. In fact, if any candidate running for election who's serious about criminal justice reform, who's serious about cutting the prison population by 50%, needs to take a hard look at what has worked and hasn't worked in terms of our past criminal justice policies, and understand that federal funding to increase the number of beds in prisons across the country is simply not a way to create safer and healthier communities.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here.
All right, I'm finna drop their link. Here you go. So that's that right there. And now let me pull up Lamentations chapter 5. And I'm going to go ahead and let it read.
Lamentations 5. Remember, O Lord, what is come upon us. Consider, and behold our reproach. Our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens. We are orphans and fatherless. Our mothers are as widows. We have drunken our water for money. Our wood is sold unto us. Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest. We have given the hand to the Egyptians and to the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. Our fathers have sinned, and are not, and we have borne their iniquities. Servants have ruled over us. There is none that doth deliver us out of their hand. We gat our bread with the peril of our lives because of the sword of the wilderness. Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. They ravished the women in Zion, and the maids in the cities of Judah. Princes are hanged up by their hand. The faces of elders were not honored. They took the young men to grind, and the children fell under the wood. The elders have ceased from the gate, the young men from their music. The joy of our heart is ceased. Our dance is turned into mourning. The crown is fallen from our head. Woe unto us that we have sinned, For this our heart is faint. For these things our eyes are dim. Because of the mountain of Zion which is desolate, the foxes walk upon it. Thou, O Lord, remainest for ever, thy throne from generation to generation. Wherefore dost thou forget us for ever, and forsake us so long time? Turn thou us unto thee, O Lord, and we shall be turned. Renew our days as of old. But thou hast utterly rejected us. Thou art very wroth against us.
Armand, so now let me go inside of this scripture right here. Family. And let's discuss this. Now in order for a man, they say, to be a man, they say he need to have his own house. Okay? Then they say he need to have money coming in. They say he need to have all these things in order to be a husband. So you see here, under persecution, under all these situations here, your inheritance is turned over to strangers. And you will ask yourself, why did our fathers, what happened with our fathers that these things occurred? Now, in the carnal sense, I could look at it and say, well, they should have just fought and did it, this and that and other. That could be a carnal argument. But on the spiritual level, why didn't they, what was they doing? Is Yahweh real? Because sometimes when things start rolling out, a lot of people will say that y'all need to get away from that Bible stuff. It just making y'all dormant and this and that and the other. Okay, so y'all need to be atheists because the Bible, which is what our ancestors studied, because the Bible is telling y'all to be doormats. That's not what the Bible teach. But y'all keep going in that Bible. Y'all keep going in that Bible. Y'all need to let that Bible go. Well, let's be atheists, and and then y'all will have something. If y'all be atheists, or if y'all put down that Bible and pick up this book or pick up that book, there's no other way that a man could be saved but through Messiah. Then somebody may say there's many ways that a person can have salvation, because they don't really believe in the scripture. They don't honor what the words say. And how can we cast down something if we don't do what it say ever, and cast it down as if there is no strength in it, no power in it? And if when our ancestors was trying to follow after this book, even though they had false teachers, when they was trying to follow after this book, we say, well, the community was more closer. But at the same mouth, we say, let us fight to pull ourselves away from this Bible here. And I ask you, remember, O Yahweh, what has come upon us. Consider and behold our reproach. Our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens. What do that mean? We read last time that your inheritance is your land, language, your children. Because if we are the inheritance of our Father in heaven, then the inheritance of Yahweh's children is their children. And I hear so many people say, well, if you don't have a good father, then then you got daddy problems. And the brother Kate Judah was showing last night that Israel is considered as a woman, and we are the bride of Hamashiach, the nation of Yasharal. They call themselves Igbo, blacks, Negroes, Afros, all across the four corners of the earth. And our father is supposed to be Yahweh. Some say Yahweh. Our father is supposed to be Yahweh, right? But if they say if you don't have a good father in your life, then that means that that's the reason why you ain't doing what you supposed to do. That's the reason why the sisters is off now, they say, because they didn't have no father in their life. Well, what if the child ran away from home? What about that? What if the children didn't want to keep the rules of the father and snuck away and ran away and ran off with somebody else that enticed them? What if they ran off with the devil? What if they ran off with Hashatan and he, when we're born in this world, we're born into sin and iniquity. And we cannot pretend like when we get married or if you get engaged that the person that you engaged to or marrying wasn't born and formed and shaping in the womb and shaping in iniquity like you was, or that the brother that was shaping in his mother's belly was not also shaping and formed in iniquity like we. So there is what some people call what the brothers say good energy, what some people may call your consciousness. There is a part of you that comes from Yah, but that part is dead without the Ruach Yahweh. So when you receive Messiah, that part of you comes alive. And how can the dead do living stuff? The dead is dead, right? So if Negroes reject their Messiah and they receive an alternate Messiah, they are a dead nation because they still in their sin, and you see it, our mind is gone because a lot of us don't know who he is, and we hate to even look into it. And this saying that they had about us, if you want to hide something from a Negro, put it in a book. I saw a white person make a post or something like this, and they said they put their money inside of a book and hid it because they know that the person that they think gonna steal from them, which a lot of times wasn't the one that they say was gonna steal from them, but they say they put their money inside of a book because they know that the ones that they think gonna come in their house and steal is not gonna open up a book and read it. They're gonna run away from the book. They don't value that dictionary. They don't value that Bible. They don't value to read. So they say these people is not gonna read it. See, if we would take time to sit down and read, or to take time to figure out what's going on for real and pray and be honest with y'all and be real with y'all, then we will see the importance of these messages that's being brought forth. These messages is not so we could get filthy rich. If this message that I'm talking to you about today was to get filthy rich, then I'm in the wrong job. If I'm doing this so I could get wealthy, then I'm in the wrong occupation, because the occupation is paying is going on national TV and being divisive to your own people, is being a sellout. That's where the money at. The money ain't in trying to do the right thing. The money is not. And the sad thing is that people we're not really thinking about this. The money is not in the proper thing to do. The money a lot of time is in the wrong thing to do. And a lot of us cannot see this thing right here. And how can a parent that has no foundation raise a child with foundation that they don't have? How can you have water to give out of a well when your well is empty? How can you teach a sheep how to be a sheep when you are a sheep with the nature of a dog? When we don't receive our Messiah, our nature is not the nature of the one that we don't receive. Just like on this earth, when you find when your husband find you, if you don't submit and say, I will marry you, and the man don't go to the father and mother and say, what is the bride price for this woman? I want to marry your daughter, right? If he don't go through the proper protocol, and if you don't follow through with it, even if you had an arranged marriage and the parent did all of the leg work for you and everything, if you don't follow through with it, you can't say that I have the nature of a submissive wife. You cannot say that I am a submissive wife when you refuse to marry your husband. You cannot say, brothers and sisters, that we are a submissive people to Yahweh, which means we say we righteous people and we smart and all this stuff, when we don't take our relationship with Yahweh serious. When we would allow money to rule our households, when we would allow money to rule our household so much until we won't even say nothing in regards to the people in our community that need for us to speak up for them, that need for our help, when we refuse to even try. That's not honorable. How could we say that we are honorable in one area that we don't receive? Messiah is the Father is the essence of honor and reverence and respect. So you got to have a foundation first before you can say that I'm a righteous person. My marriage should never broke up, or my wife should have submitted, or my husband should have led better. If y'all rejecting the rock, if your husband if you rejected the rock, if you married somebody that's rejecting the rock of you say your salvation, or if you marry a woman that is against the rock of what you call your salvation, how can you expect water to come out of a dry place? So it's expedient what we say we're going by clothes, but let us buy some clothes for our spirit, right? Well, you can't purchase that because that couldn't be paid by you. If it could have, then the Messiah died in vain. If we could have paid the penalty for our own sin and fix ourselves up without Messiah, then he died in vain. Because why would the creator of the universe send his only begotten son to die on a tree, to be lynched on a tree for a person that all they had to do is do it their own self? If there was some kind of way, some kind of strong way where they could have saved their own self, even if it would have had to been the nearest to impossible thing to do, if it was a possibility, Messiah prayed. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane, Father, if there's any other way. But nevertheless, not as I will, but thy will be done. He prayed this 3 times. Father, if there's any other way. Father, if there's any other way. And the Malak came and gave him strength because it wasn't no other way. It wasn't no other way. He was the only way and the truth and the life to the Father. Broad is the way that lead to every other path, but narrow is the way that lead to the right path. So there was only one way. So there's only one person that can help you in your marriage. Only one. Only one person, right? So when we rejected our Messiah, who is married to us as a nation, what does that do? We took ourselves out of the protection of our husband. Right now, let's think about this here. Brothers, us brothers, we say, if our woman leave us and go and be with some other man, I ain't gonna do nothing else. I don't wanna, she need to get it how she live. That other man need to take care of it. He need to take money out of his pocket. What I look like taking care of you and your new man that you chose over. So if we feel that way in the natural sense, why do we think that Yahweh is gonna put up with us going to be with every Tom and Harry and them? And we don't want to submit to our Allahayim. And we want our marriages and everything in our life to work. We want our storehouses and all of our stuff to work proper. But we don't want to honor our husband, Yasharal. We don't even want to acknowledge that we Yasharal. We reject the word because we love this world. We love this nation. We love our captivity. We love our oppression, a lot of us. So we reject Hamashiach. Because the love of the Father is not in us. The Father loved his kingdom. The Father loved his Son. The Father chose Yahushua to be your ruler. But if we don't love our Allahayim and love the one that he put over us, then we're going to choose the pathway that we choose. And for every part of our life, all the nation together, they say it take a village to raise a child. Right? All the nation together was supposed to work together in the commandments that y'all gave to us. So if your marriage is struggling, even if you when you don't have no programs, really. You don't got nothing. Look at what's going on with our brothers and sisters in Chicago. We have to return back to the covenant. We say if something ain't going right in this association, we need to go to another one. Where's our association at? Why we can't go to the church? What's wrong with, you know what's wrong with the church? You know what's wrong with the church. If I come on here and continuously say the problems that's going on with the church, I'm pretty sure that all of y'all will be well acquainted with the things that's going on with the church. Like right now. Everybody is so bent out of shape over an idol, over a graven image that don't even historically match the appearance of the people written in the Bible. So it's a degradation of a degradation against the original. It's a degradation of a degradation against the original. Because the original people did not look like the one that they did at the Olympics. The original people did not look like the one that they painted and put inside of the church. And many of us got hanging over our mantles probably still. But it looked like the people that the scriptures say will be scattered to the four corners of the earth as the slaves after the destruction of the temple 70 AD. Luke chapter 21. Read it. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Read it. Deuteronomy 31. Read it. What do it say? So now when you see all this stuff going on, you are under oppression. You are under persecution. You're not under your own governance. How does this work? Negroes, just because you were shipped across the water does not mean that you're not living in the colony. Just because you shipped over to the New World do not mean that you're not under a colonization. You just outside of your own, you just shipped far from your border. But that don't mean that you still not under colonization. Well, some say, well, some of us is in authority. Some of us got power. Some of us got, Daniel them was in authority. Daniel them had power. Daniel them had money, but they was still under colonism. They was still under colonism. Okay? So now I'm gonna read one more, and then I'm finna end the live, because this live ain't got to be that long and drawn out. In order for our marriages to work, we got to try to serve y'all. And in doing it, what did he say in the Bible? How do you serve him? It is not that hard, family, to know what to do. I ain't say it's easy, but I say it's not hard to know what to do. And as long as you striving for righteousness, and I'm finna show you. So we're gonna go to 1 John. Let's go ahead and go to chapter 2. This is what we supposed to be doing. My little children, these things write I unto you, that ye sin not. This is John, Yakanan, chapter 2. 1 John, 1 Yakanan, chapter 2. My little children, these things write I unto you, that you sin not. What is sin? And if any man sin transgression of our law, of our land, if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yahushua HaMashiach, the righteous. See, he the one you go to. Like when you get wrong, you go to Messiah. You don't have to go to the Buddha priest. You don't have to go nowhere else. You call on your Redeemer, on your Gullah, your kinfolk. You call on Rosh Gala, your head Gullah, the head Gullah in charge that the Father put over you. Call on Rosh Gala, on Yahushua HaMashiach, the righteous, because he righteous. And he, see, is righteous for him. Look, and he is the propitiation for our sin, for the sin of our nation. So when we need this curse put off of us, so if it's sin, if it's transgression of our law, which is sin, that's the reason why the curse is on us. That's the reason why a lot of stuff is going on with us. Then if we call on Yahushua HaMashiach, the righteous, he is the propitiation for our sin, for our transgression of our law. While we in these lands and they say, you ain't got to, don't worry about that old African spiritual stuff. You got to keep the laws of our land. It just don't matter. Identity is racism. Identity is separatism. Identity is the problem. Ethnicity is the problem. No, that ain't the problem. Our problem is transgressing our law. And since we're not in our home country and we're not a sovereign nation right now, look, you under the laws and governance and things what people write for you, right? So now, while you in these places as aliens, because you were scattered to the four corners of the earth, and you living in the lands of your captivity, what the Bible called it in the last day that you would be in. This is the land of your captivity. Some people may say, no, this is not the land of my captivity. You calling Yahweh a liar if you say that. And we know that no liar have no truth in him. And he is the propitiation for our sin, and not ours only, but also for the sins of the whole nation. That word there mean nation. Because if he talking about the whole world and he gonna save the whole world, how is he gonna save the places that he prophesied through the prophets, through a promise that he's gonna destroy? If the Father is not true, If the Father is not authentic, if the Father can be a liar, then why should we trust in his Son? The Father, the Ruach Alahayim spoke to the prophets. The Spirit of Yah spoke to the prophets. They prophesied. The prophets prophesied about the destruction of all the kingdoms that we live in under right now. And it's only going to be one place where authority is going to be, and that's going to be at the throne of Alahayim, which is the throne of Dawad. That's where Yahweh Shah will sit. He and the Father is one. The Father already run stuff through his Son anyway. He and the Father is one. And he is the propitiation for our sin. See? And not for ours only. He said, I do not pray for the world. I do not pray for the nations. But I pray for them whom you have given me out of the nations. Who did he call out of the nation of Yasharal? Those apostles. Those apostles were to be the light to the nations. And also to the Gentiles from other nations. Our people were to be the light. The scripture said, do not give another your honor. We are not supposed to give the nations our responsibility. Not supposed to give them our name. Not supposed to give them our inheritance. And he is the propitiation for our sins, for our transgression of the law. He said, I am not come, but for the lost sheep of the house of Yasharal. So he died for our sin. A father take care of his children first. Before he take care of the world, he take care of his children first. So he died for Yasharal. He died for the sins of Yasharal. And the nations, in order for them to be saved, they have to cleave to the kingdom of Yahweh. They can't be in the clan and in the kingdom. They can't be in the skinhead and in the kingdom. How you gonna be in the kingdom of somebody that got hair like wool and flesh like brass, as if it burned in the furnace, and he is the blood of the people whom is in slavery, that your religions teach to hate? How can you say that your religion that you in, religion means culture. Religion means the law of your heart, right? Religion, that word where they say culture, that's what religion really means. But see, when they look at your culture, they say your culture is religious, so everybody can just take it. You don't have it. No, your culture is wrapped up in your laws. Your culture is wrapped up in your being. Your culture is not you not a carbon copy of your culture. So how can you be a hater of your own self? How can you hate on your own self? You got to be who you is. And when they receive Hamashiach, then he will give them a natural culture in him. But their culture will not supersede the law, statute, and commandments. And he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole Arats. So who was he talking to? He's the propitiation for our sins, Yasharal, and for the sins of the nations. But he is not the propitiation for our sins, so that the nations, when we receive Messiah, that the nations rule over us. Say, let me ask you a question. If they say because we were so wicked and worshiping snakes and stuff out there in the wilderness, this is the reason why they confiscated all of our stuff and men can't be men no more now. So let's see. So what about the Apostle Shawal? Did not he receive Messiah? Why was he beheaded? Why did the government allow the process to go through? Why did they allow Shimon Kepha to be lynched? upside down? Why was Hamashiach lynched on the tree if they so righteous? If Yasharal is the only wicked one, why was the Romans lynching Hamashiach on the tree? Why was they soldiers? Why was they out there doing that? Why was they enforcing themselves inside of our land? Did not they see the Messiah? If they say they believed in him, why did they not just leave? Okay, they say a righteous person is here now, so I can't say all these people is evil. He got a lot of followers. Why was they allowed the Sanhedrin and all them to fight against Yahweh Shah if they cared about your leaders? Why was Malcolm and all them taken out? So your allegiance cannot be to the nations. It has to be to Yahweh Shah. It has to be to your king. Messiah said, if my kingdom was of this world, my disciples would have fought that you do not take me. But see, he said, my kingdom is not of this nation. My kingdom is not of this kingdom. My kingdom is not of your Roman kingdom. My kingdom is not of your iron and clay kingdom. My kingdom is not of your brass kingdom. My kingdom is not of your head of gold kingdom. My kingdom is not of your dynasty. My kingdom is not of your colony. But my kingdom is from the Shamayam. My kingdom is from the Father. My kingdom is the one that's going to do it forever. My kingdom is the one that when you receive me, water will flow up in your heart, everlasting water. My kingdom is a kingdom of peace. This kingdom that we live in has blood on it. So the scriptures say that we ought to prepare ourselves. Now, how can people say that in God we trust, but they don't receive what the Bible say? Only pick it and choose it, but they like in there. The Bible said that Yasharal would be scattered to the four corners of the earth. They knew who they was catching, family. That's why when you read on that sign, it said they took Igbos. They took Igbos. They took us from west of Africa. They pushed us out of Spain and Portugal. We left out of our land and went to Spain and Portugal. And we fled out of our land to West Africa. And then they came and got us because we did not want to receive the Roman Catholic religion, the Roman Catholic culture, their laws, their religion, their culture. We did not want to receive that because we had the original. We had the original, so we didn't want to receive that. So a lot of our ancestors were murdered, tortured, tormented. That's why they were slain, and they took the children and threw them in holes and let the buzzards come out there and eat. And there was a funk all across Africa. That's why they did it. So after all this going on, how do we as a people, how do our marriages work? We have to be first married to Yahweh Shah. That's how our marriage gonna work. That's how our marriage is gonna work. And I ain't saying that you're gonna always do stuff right. I'm not saying that you're gonna be perfect, but that's how your marriage gonna work. Whether see the same law go for Yasharal, and it also go for the other nations. If they don't have Yahweh Shah, your marriage is not going to work. If you don't have Yahweh Shah, I got to be perfect. I said receive Yahweh Shah. He is the propitiation for our sin. For Yasharal first, and then y'all. It go by order. He died for us. You got to cleave to the kingdom of Yahweh. He not forgiving you for your sin so that you can build up your wicked kingdom. He not forgive you for your sin so that you can keep building on the iron and clay. He not forgiving you for your sin so that you can continue to build on your iron and clay. He forgive you for your sin so that you could be sealed unto the day when he come and take his people out of this place. See, the nations, if they want to be a servant in his kingdom, they have to kiss his feet. And if we want to be in his kingdom, then we gonna have to kiss his feet, Yasharal. We gonna have to honor our king. We can't reject our king and think that we finna make it inside of his kingdom. We cannot reject the husband of our soul and think that we finna have salvation of our soul after we rejected the water of our soul. How can you say you thirsty but won't drink the water that's right there in front of you? He is an open door to you, to the Father. Drink you. In order for us to go inside of the holies of holies, we have to first go through the veil. In order for you to get to the holies of holies, the holy of holies, we have to first go through the veil, and that veil is Yahushua flesh. In order for you to get to the Father, in order for you to get to the law, statute, and commandments, which was inside of the Ark of the Covenant, in order for you to get to the law, statute, and commandment, in order for you to get to the Ruach Alahayim, Yahweh, Abanawa, in order for you to get to the Father, in order for you to go beyond the veil, you have to first go through the flesh of Yahushua. His flesh was beaten. He said, by his stripes we are healed. He was whipped. He was beaten beyond recognition. His beard was plucked. When people looked at him, they wouldn't even notice that he was marred worse than any person on this earth could ever be marred. Because he loved you, not because he sinned, not because he did something wrong, but because we did something wrong, and he was the only one that saved us, so that's why he did it. He didn't do it so he could get rich. He did it so that he could save those who were lost. He got rich with children that the Father had given unto him, because he did not bear a seed. He did not have children from a woman on this earth. Who can declare his seed? For he was cut off from the land of the living. But Yahweh have given him seed. Yahweh has given him seed. Who is the lot of his inheritance? Yasharal. How can a nation say they got inheritance when they boast against the lot of his inheritance? Yahweh is not going to let you come inside of his kingdom and you hate the lot of his inheritance. Either you're going to love the word or hate the word. All right, Mashpaka, I got to get off of here. But I hope that y'all got something out of this. I want to say, Shalom to you. How you say your name? Potaz QC. Thank you for coming. I want to say thank you for coming, brother Marty, Frederick Y'all. That's our brother in Africa. Brother, hopefully one day you will be able to come up and let the family know what's going on over there in Africa. Okay? Fam, I'm about to jump off of here, but before I go, I just want to say shalom to you, and I want you to seek for the word. Seek for y'all. Seek him while he may be found, you know, and take all your burdens to him and leave them there. Take your burdens to Yahweh and leave them there. Shalom, fam.